Carry On. This book is a new personal favorite of mine, and it is so fucking devilishly, giggly, fucking adorable and cute. Now, first off, this is a fucking queer as fuck romance novel, in case you didn't already know, because pretty much everyone already knows that. If they've even remotely looked this book up, they're well aware that it is a queer romance. But it works fantastically in this book. There's nothing stereotypical about it. It's not mocking or done negatively in any kind of way. And, oh, you fell. Kitten on my lap. You fell over. But the romance done in this is fucking flawlessly fantastic. The pacing is also done magically well. Yeah, sorry for being the pest little one. And I definitely could not recommend this enough. Thankfully, there is a second book coming out, so I cannot wait to read that one. And I kind of noticed a little bit ago, the second book is called Wayward Son, and this one's called Carry On, so it's literally Carry On, Wayward Son, which is a heavy nod to Supernatural, which is fucking great, because Supernatural is great. But this is very much a fantasy book, and I did go into this book with an awful lot of worries, because it is a magical chosen one, goes to magical school for people with wands to learn how to use magic. Which sounds an awful lot like Harry Potter, and if you know anything about me, you know I fucking hate Harry Potter and think it is god-awful, and it mocks the shit out of witchcraft. Thankfully, this book is pretty much nothing like Harry Potter in that regards. The only thing it's got in common with Harry Potter is the fact that they use wands for magic, and that they go to a magical school to learn magic. Other than that, there's almost nothing in common, which is thankfully the case. That was my biggest concern, and it was thrown away. Happily so. My second biggest concern with this book was the whole vampire aspect, because, well, there's a vampire in the book. And I wasn't quite sure how vampires were going to be done by this, but they were done wonderfully. I like the vampires in this book. So, that was And one of the ways that the witchcraft in here is done vastly differently than Harry Potter is they use actual words, and words have actual meaning, rather than coming up with mumbo-jumbo bullshit like Harry Potter does. Fuck that mumbo-jumbo bullshit. Glad this didn't do that crap. Also, it does not call them wizards, it calls them mages, which is another welcomed change, because there are pagans and witches who really dislike the wizard term. Mage is a little bit more acceptable. I would much prefer if they were called witches, but I'll take mages, that's okay. It's pretty alright. And this is also, whilst being a queer novel, it is also a human plus inhuman romance, which I am a fucking sucker for. If you, again, know anything about me, I fucking love inhuman plus human romances. And that is what this fucker is, and it is done so fantastically well. And thankfully they did it with the vampire, which means you get lots of wonderful vampy time, because vampires are fucking awesome. Now, this book is incredibly British. It is very, very British. There's a lot of British slang in here, so you might have to actually look up what some of the words are to be like, what the fuck does this mean? Because, of course, you know, they've got their tea time, chav is used, they have different words for chips, etc. It goes on a lot much more than that. And snogging is a cute word, I'll admit. Snogging is a fucking adorable word. It's one of those British words I really like. And I like that it comes up a fair bit in this, because snogging just sounds cute. So you might have to look up a couple of the British slang words that are in here. And wonderfully so, the audiobook version of this is done with a British accent, which just makes it all the better for the audiobook, which I haven't actually listened to yet, but... And I personally, I like Britain, I like British accents, so that just makes me like the book more, because, yay, Britain. I wouldn't want to live there currently right now, but... And then the world building of this guy is fantastic. I know the world building is mostly just a school, but the way the school is set up, the way it looks and described as looking is fantastic. all the different species that exist in this book, the book does not baby you by explaining every single little different creature. It just kind of expects you to figure it out as you read, which is nice. It treats us with a little bit of a adultness. And the world building isn't excessive either. There isn't a shit ton of this is described, all these different places, all these different things and societies and all the politics. And I'm glad they didn't do that, because this is a romance novel first, a fantasy book second, so excessive world building would have actually dragged the book down, I feel. So I'm glad they didn't do that. Though, my biggest problem, I guess, with the particular writing style... Oh, yeah, I'll show that first. This kind of thing helps with the world building. That's the setup of the school. It's got a little fold-out thing. But the other thing that bothers me with the writing is the amount of chapters in this fucker is absurd. There is 86, 89 chapters, something like that. Yeah, it's like borderline 100 fucking chapters, plus an epilogue. That's a little bit ridiculous. I don't like it when my books start to go to excessive numbers of chapters. It annoys the fuck out of me, actually. It doesn't annoy me as much with this book because of the way it's set up. It's usually done to show a change of character, but not always, which makes it a little bit more tolerable to me. Though some of the chapters are like one fucking sentence long, and I'm sorry, not really at all, actually. But that annoys the fuck out of me. I do not like one sentence chapters. That annoys the shit out of me. But it's not enough for me to really knock this book down any points at all, because the rest of the book is just too McFreaking-fantastic to really be bothered by that. And the point of view changes, because there is basically two true main characters, but there's also two other sort of almost main characters. And, well, unsurprisingly, these guys are the two true main characters. Simon Snow and Baz Pitch. I'm not going to attempt to say his full actual name, because good fucking goddamn, that is a linguistic nightmare. And the point of view changes between these two and other characters can actually get a little confusing at some points, because it's so rapid. Like, it could be one sentence change, one sentence change, one sentence change, two sentences change. So that can get a little excessive at some points, but it makes the book have a more natural, real conversation kind of flow and feel to it. So it manages to work, but I honestly would not recommend most authors try to do it in that way. And the humor of this book is also absolutely fantastic, especially when it comes to Baz, who is the vampire, as is said right on the fucking back of the book. The amount of vampire humor and in-jokes is relatable as fuck and completely hilarious. I adored his little vampy parts, where he's just sitting there being a melancholy but ever so utterly dramatic vampire boy. And that's one thing I've heard a lot of people say is, how the fuck did nobody notice that Baz was gay as fuck? Because he is the most dramatic fucker ever. He is so fucking dramatic and fabulous. He's great. Especially when you see the cover of the second book, which has him in a floral print tuxedo. Which is very gay. Very, very gay. And again, with the vampires, I'm so fucking glad she went with vampires, not zombies, or any other fucking creature, because vampires just work way too fucking good with this. Especially because bloodlust comes up a lot in this, and I am a sucker for bloodlust. And that wouldn't exist if that one guy, Bazzy, was not a vampire, so I'm ever thankful that he is actually a vampire. And the book actually has the balls to be upfront about the vampire stuff, too. It doesn't shield you from the nitty-gritty, from the gory, bloodlusty, this is kind of shitty occasionally and the sun hates me stuff. Which is appreciated, because a lot of the times romance novels, YA novels, and children's novels will try to avoid that stuff, and will just try to paint it as, oh, but I guess he drinks occasionally, but we don't talk about that in this book. This book, fuck, it talks about it. And in kind of grotesque occasional sections, because, well, honestly, who would want to drink blood from a rat? That's kind of gross, whether you're a vampire or not. The one thing I do have a problem with, which partly is due to it being British, actually, is the uniforms. The school has uniforms, mandatory uniforms that the students must wear. I fucking hate uniforms. Uniforms are fucking stupid. They do no good. They hinder creativity and personal expression. They have no place in the real world or in fictional books. But I get that they are the norm in Britain. I wish they weren't, but I get that they are the norm. Now, characters specifically, mostly Simon Snow and Baz Pitch because, well, they're the true fucking main characters. And Baz Pitch is my fucking baby. He is fucking great. He is really goddamn broken. Sure of himself, but also he doesn't know what the fuck he's doing, especially when it comes to his romantic feelings, which he tries to spend an entire summer wanking away, which is fucking hilarious. Because what a weird-ass way to try and deal with your random-ass romantic attraction to somebody, just to spend an entire summer jerking off. And it's fucking adorable. And even Simon as well, he is fucking broken as well. But Simon is a little bit on the oblivious side because his fucking roommate is gay and he never fucking notices this fucking shit. I mean, he notices that his roommate's a vampire, even though his vampire roommate won't admit to it, but Simon Snow is still really fucking oblivious. But for once it actually works in this book because it's not oblivious to the point of being a fucking moron. It's just kind of being a little out of it, but not too much. And when it comes to gayness, the amount of questioning is super suitable in this book. A lot of confusion, a lot of, what the fuck am I sexuality-wise? Which is appreciated in this book. And another thing with Baz is, he is a badass, honestly. He's the kind of guy who will cut you after kicking down your door and throwing glitter fucking everywhere, and then he'll kiss you in a forest fire or some weird-ass shit just because that's kind of what he does. But there's a lot of parts with him that are kind of depressing and sad, and that's mostly due to, well, his mother hating vampires and him mildly hating them himself, which is a little kind of sad, because I like my vampires to be very proud of their vampireness, but thankfully he's not one of those, I despise being a vampire, would do anything to not be one, kind of types. He does hate it in some ways, but it's not too much. Because he does fit into the, I'm a cursed and forsaken vampire, a creature of the night, help me. He does fall into that stereotype. Thankfully, it's not too much. And my biggest worry with him, once I started noticing that personality aspect of him, is I worried that the end of the book would see him redeemed by becoming a human being, and I fucking hate that trope when it comes to Inhumans. Keep your fucking Inhumans inhuman. They don't need to stop being a monster to be redeemed. But thankfully, that bullshit does not happen in this book, which makes me very fucking happy. If anything, the reverse happens, which actually makes me quite happy. And then you have the two female main characters, Penelope and Agatha, which is an awful fucking name. That is an ugly name. Don't name your kid Agatha. It's a horrible, ugly name. I don't like it. And Agatha, she's just your girl who wants to be normal, basically. That's her entire character. She just wants to be fucking normal and have a fucking normal life. And then Penelope is the perpetuant sidekick character. Even Baz calls her the fucking sidekick character, which says an awful lot. And again, with Agatha, she's kind of a weakling who just sort of runs away. And one thing I didn't mention with Simon is he is your stereotypical chosen one. But not really. He's the chosen one, but not in the stereotypical way. Which, if you read the very end of the book, you will completely spoil, so don't do that. It is really nice. Then there is Ebb and the Mage. These are more minor characters. Mage, fuck that guy, honestly. I can't really say anything about him, because he's a walking spoiler if I do say anything about him. But fuck him. Yeah, he's a really shitty person, he's an extremist, and also, him calling himself the Mage, I mean, come on. That is just, no. And Ebb, oh, Ebb is so depressing, but she's built to be depressing as fuck. And she's a really great show of one of the changes that really needs to happen within the Mage's world in this book. And her ending is heartbreaking. And the last character, really, of any importance at all, is Lucy, who I still don't fucking understand. I don't understand who this character is, really, and I can't really say my guess on who she is, because that spoils parts of the book. But she's just, I don't know, she's just really confusing. Even upon looking back, it's still fucking confusing. And then with this book being a romance, of course, the romance aspect of it is much more important than romance would be in other books, and it is flawlessly paced, as I have already said. And even though it seems like it could be hopelessly doomed, this is a happy ending romance novel, so things are not hopelessly doomed. But there's multiple relationships in this book, not just the queer relationship between, you know, the main characters. And one of them is a very obviously doomed relationship, and that's Simon's relationship with Agatha. And yeah, it's obvious from the get-go that these two don't belong together, that it's an unhealthy relationship, and the book doesn't shy away from the fact that it is an unhealthy relationship. It doesn't try to pretend that it's a good relationship, or that they should just be happy together, and whatnot. It makes it clear that that relationship is unhealthy. And then there is another very queer relationship in the book, which is just kind of mentioned in passing, which is kind of nice. Yeah. And the parents in this book are pretty much, they're just your stereotypical parents. There's not much to really say about them at all. Probably the thing that was kind of irking me a lot with reading it for the romance part is, holy fuck, does the author make you wait and wait and wait. It takes a long time to get to the nitty-gritty romance parts. So, and the other thing I guess I didn't really like with the romance is one of the characters who's clearly gone out with women, clearly likes guys, is being passed off as being gay. And that, I'm kind of sitting here like, no. Don't be afraid to call the character bi, or poly, or pan. He's been with women. He is not gay. And I know it's being used as the stereotype of, he only dated women because he didn't know he actually liked men and was not privy to himself. I think that's just a fucking cop-out, honestly. In this case, anyway. So, as far as I'm concerned, that particular character is not gay. He's at the very least bi, or poly, or pan. He's not gay. But his relationship is still very much a queer one in the end of things. And the actual ending for the main romance is fucking perfect. It's everything you could want in it, but it also flips the book completely on its head too, but in a completely and utterly positive manner. Though, I really actually wish it was longer, to be frank, because you basically just kind of see the very beginnings of the relationship budding, and I would like to see more of the full relationship, which I'm assuming will come in the second book. So, that's what I'm looking forward to with that. But originally, I did not know this was going to get a second book, so I was kind of like, well, I want more, give me more, but now it's like there's a second book coming in 2 years. Which is the sad part, it's like, I want the second book, like, now. Give it to me. I want more of these books. And then, finally, the cover. It's got the wonderful little purple shades that go all over it, and he's got his little sword, and these guys look fucking fantastic. I know some people will complain that it basically puts an image of your mind of what these characters are supposed to look like, but as far as I'm concerned, this is what the author had in mind for them, so it's accurate. It's what they should look like to you in the first place. My only thing with this is going in, I was slightly confused as to who the fuck was who on the cover before I actually started reading the book. Because this guy's got pointy ears and a sword, this guy's got the wand. So I'm sitting here, is this guy the vampire or is this guy the vampire? I didn't know. But it's very clear once you actually read the book who's who. And the only thing I would say with covers is for the second book, the second book's cover actually spoils the ending to the first book. I don't like it when authors do that, but it is still a fantastic cover for the second book. So I wouldn't recommend looking at the second book's cover until you've read the first book, just because of that. So, yeah. Overall, I'd really, really recommend this read, especially if you want a queer novel or a human-in-human romance, because it does that fantastically, both of them. And I can't wait to see more from this author, and I will probably read the fangirl book once I get my hands on it now, since it has to do with these fucking two, and I fucking adore Baz, as you can probably tell from the fact that my fucking phone screen is Baz and Simon Pitch. Even my fucking background in the opening of it is Baz and Pitch, because, well, Baz and Snow, because they're fucking fantastic, and I adore the two of them. So I'd really, really recommend this particular. Yay! I love my Snow Baz.